Welcome to Gaining Vision. I'm Melanie. Thanks so much for clicking. To my returning family, the Visionaries, thank you for your continuous love and support. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Please feel at home. Have you had an opportunity to subscribe to the channel yet? If not, take a second, hit subscribe, and please don't forget to like and share. When the EFF manifesto was first launched back in February, there was a lot of questions, concerns, and comments flying around. Things like, it's unrealistic, it's a pie-in-the-sky dream, who's going to pay for all this, and who's going to do all the work? All these questions and concerns are legitimately questions, concerns, and comments by people who truly don't understand what the EFF is trying to do, and or people who are okay with the status quo and don't want change. But I also discovered something. Despite having read the manifesto 3 times, I myself didn't understand everything, and I needed to do my research, and I needed to understand what it was they were trying to accomplish. So I dug deep, and I went through some videos, did some extra research, and I came up with some information I'd like to share with you. But what I also discovered is the EFF was doing a lot of work as well, going on many different platforms to be interviewed and answer these questions using concrete examples and comparisons for people to truly understand what it is they're trying to accomplish. So today I thought we could dive into some aspects of this manifesto together so we all can learn and grow together. The first area I wanted to tackle is industrialization. Now, industrialization is a fancy word of manufacturing products and goods. Currently, right now in South Africa, they're not manufacturing things that they use on a daily basis. They're importing them. Manufacturing has been put on the back burner, and the EFF realizes and recognizes the importance of manufacturing goods. Not only would it make things more affordable for South African people, would cut costs on importing, but also it could create jobs. They understand the need for how each community used to thrive on having jobs and making manufacturing plants in the communities. They also look at the rural areas where the natural minerals and resources are located and the opportunities for manufacturing of them as well. So this is why they've come up with incentives to give to people who will open factories and warehouses that hire 2,000 people for minimum wage and benefits, to encourage them to not only create jobs, but also a community based on success. Because manufacturing products and goods would not only help South African people get what they need at a lesser price and create jobs, but also will put them on the map to be able to then export those items to other African countries and across the globe. Industrialization is key, and the EFF has recognized this. Let's take a listen to what Julius Malema had to say on this topic.
On the economy, why are we not beneficiating in South Africa? We say when we take over, in less than a year, we'll beneficiate 50% of our minerals in South Africa. So when you take chrome from Skukuni, as it passes those villages until Richards Bay, you must know inside those trucks is jobs. Because where that chrome is going to be processed, that's where jobs are going to be created. You cannot expect to create jobs when you are not beneficiating with so much mineral resources that you have. Then you have the fishing rights that are not given to our people. Both natural and mineral resources our people don't have access to. Then you don't industrialize. Do you know that we don't produce toothpick? We don't produce matchsticks. We don't produce plastic plates or steel plates that we use every day. No one in South Africa has ever said, no, we are only going to eat in the plates that are from China. We don't produce the things that we use on a daily basis. Why? Why would you not produce the things that you use every day? We grew up in Sishiu, there used to be factories there. They used to produce textile clothes there in the township. A lot of people used to work there. What is it that the Bantustan can do better than us if we are really better than the Bantustan? There's no big township you can go to anywhere in South Africa and not find those factories. And those factories have been shut down. How do we grow the economy without industrializing? And we need to industrialize based on the commodities produced by those particular areas. Gauteng is what it is because of the discovery of diamond and gold. Kimberley came to be because of diamond. Why is Rustenburg not becoming what Gauteng became? Because there's a discovery of platinum there. Why is Kukuni not industrialized because of the discovery of platinum there? Why is Lephalale not being industrialized because of the discovery of a clean coal? So it is because we lack a visionary leadership that is able to say, hey, if you go and open industries in these economic special zones that we've established, these are the incentives. There could be tax incentives, there could be incentives in water or electricity or anything of that sort, depending on how many people you employ. In that way, you decentralize the economy, you grow it, and you depopulate Gauteng. Because what is happening now here in Gauteng is unsustainable. If we are not going to decentralize this economy and we concentrate it in Gauteng, we are going to become what that main city of Venezuela has become, where walking on foot is much more better than driving. So we need to engage in industrialization, and we need to protect the infant industries of South Africa against the big economies.
Then these special, because what you have in your manifesto, correct me if I'm wrong, is a very statist ideology. And when you're talking about special economic zones, those programs involve investors, private investors. Now, where exactly does that merge in terms of your outlook of how we get into a space where we create jobs?
When you expropriate land and it is under the state's custodianship, you can say to any foreign direct investment, come and invest here. I give you the land for this particular period of time. There's no one who can refuse to come and invest in a place where there is guarantee of land tenure. You are told, I'm here, you calculate your moves, you like, in 30 years' time I would have made my money. And no one can come here and tell me a nonsensical argument that no, people will not come and put their factories on state-owned land. As we speak now, in all special economic zones where there is private investment, they are on a state-owned land. They don't own that land. So it's not true that if we own the land, they will not come and invest. For, capital is the most immoral thing. They are obsessed with maximizing profit and nothing else. That's why they go and buy blood diamond where there is war. They go in there. As long as there is diamond, they can even sponsor the war. And so we're not going to make capitalists as if they are moralist people. They are not moralist people. Capitalists look at, under this policy of the EFF, how can I make profit? And if they can still make profit, they will come irrespective of what the policy is. This iPhone of America is being produced in China. China has got no similar policy as the USA, but the USA realizes if it is to meet its target, it has to now swallow its pride and allow iPhone to go and produce there, and many other US products which Trump tried to stop, but it's not doable because once you shut out the China, you have shut out the quarter of the world population. But the policy is not what the USA want. So it's not correct. Make the environment conducive for state investment as the first investor. Because it must not be, an impression must never be created that the state can invest. We can invest in mining. We can invest in any platform that you want the private sector to invest in. If it becomes costly for the state to do that, then we can consider private investment and direct foreign investment. We're not fighting with anyone. We simply say, you are going to invest in this country and you are going to do it through our own terms.
Your approach in land does suggest that you want to move away from private sector, or at least private sector from the West. Are you saying that as you speak now, you're saying that the state, economy must be dependent on both private and the state?
The state must own strategic means of the economy. Anything strategic must be owned by the state. Why should the harbor be privatized? How are we going to bring things in and out when someone has got a headache, has got a fever, no, today he doesn't want to wake up? That is his harbor. Nothing will come into the country. That's very strategic. We need to own strategic mines of coal, because coal is our line base in terms of the provision of electricity. What type of coal are you talking about, Mr. Malema? Open cast mining, a coal that is easily accessible, a coal that will not require us to put too much capital in order for us to bring out this mineral. The same thing as platinum. Anglo-American is mining platinum directly itself in Mokopane, whereas everywhere else they've outsourced mining. They've given it to other private companies to mine on their behalf. Why are they mining in Mokopane? The platinum in Mokopane is profitable and easily accessible. You don't have to dig deep to find it. It's just here. Those are strategic assets that the state must own and maximize out of it. We must not do like what Botswana did. You own your diamond. You say to DBS, take 50%. We take 50%. They say, no problem. But you don't have control. You are a shareholder with no control. You depend on DBS to tell you how many currents came out of that diamond mine. You don't have a control. So, and then they take out 100, and then they say to you 30. And then they still share with you on that 30, 50-50. So that is actually bluffing. It's not a real ownership by the state. So the EFF speaks about ownership and control. And that will redirect a lot of resources into fiscus. I'm telling you about Botswana, which is being robbed. But with the money they make out of diamonds, they take their children to the best universities in the world. And then they pay them every month for going to school, whereas they are still at school. The last time I checked, I met the Botswana students in Washington, D.C. They were earning each equivalent of 5,000 rands in South Africa as monthly allowance. My mother died, she has never earned that salary. But that is given to kids in Botswana because of their mineral, because of their diamond. Look at what Botswana is doing with its mineral. DBS does that in Botswana, and then it comes back and refuses to do that here in South Africa. What is the difference between Botswana and here? Why are you not applying the same policy you're applying in Botswana, in South Africa, where we make money directly from our minerals, put into fiscus, and rebuild our public health system?
Infrastructure is another really big aspect of the manifesto. And really, infrastructure is a big topic. I didn't understand it all. Now, we know that all countries, communities, and cities need a strong infrastructure to be successful. But did you know that there's hard infrastructure and soft infrastructure? I didn't. Hard infrastructure includes the roads, the bridges, the buildings, the water and sewage, railroads, electricity, and telecommunications, all vital for any community, country, or city to thrive and success and do business. A soft infrastructure includes healthcare, education, and emergency services. All of these things are vital, and in South Africa, we see that they exist, but we also understand, based on what the EFF is saying, that they also have a lifespan. Every infrastructure item has a lifespan of how, based on their age, how much it's been used, how well it's been maintained, and of course, even climate plays a factor. The EFF has proposed that within 6 months of taking power in office, they will do an audit on all infrastructure so that they are well aware of what the lifespan of all infrastructure in South Africa is, because that way they can prepare so that they don't have bridges collapsing, they don't have roads coming to an end at the same time. That way they're prepared. They also talk about something I didn't know about: bots, build, operate, and transfer. This is where Infrastructure has a high cost at the beginning stages to actually implement and build. But when you get corporate companies and contracts from outside of the country or even within that come in, they build it at their own cost, they operate it for a certain set of term, and then after the term is done and they've recouped their money, they then transfer it back to the government of South Africa. Think about a road. They come in, they build a road, they put a toll, and that toll will pay for the money to go back to the person who's built it, but also to maintain the road. I was reminded of a highway here in Canada, the 407. When it was built, it was a shortcut. It was a beautiful road, well maintained, and there was tolls on it. The people were paid back, the private companies that built it, and now it's back to the government. It makes good business sense, and the EFF is proposing this as a great opportunity. But the other big piece of the infrastructure puzzle is the job opportunities. They're vast and plentiful, and the EFF sees this as a great opportunity for South Africans. Think about it, project managers, engineers, people to construct and build the infrastructure, and then of course people to maintain. All these jobs need skilled individuals to come and do the work. The EFF has proposed that a lot of these jobs be done and hired by the government. That way they can keep their finger on the pulse, ensure the jobs are being done well and on the right timetable. But they know they can't do it alone, so obviously private businesses will be involved as well as filling these roles in and making sure that the jobs are there for long term, because infrastructure is an ongoing thing that helps build capacity, that helps these countries, cities, and communities thrive. Just think of it. What is possible with solid infrastructure? Not only will it make South Africa thrive and be successful and increase the economy, but also they can be leaders in this area if they have the right pieces. And the EFF sees the potential with infrastructure.
I want to speak about the massive rollout of infrastructure projects that you speak about in the manifesto. We have a huge problem of corruption, as you well know. You only have 5 years of authority in this country. How do you work around the issue of corruption, and it's hard to alleviate?
Well, if you make a mistake of giving us 5 years, you will never want to remove us because of the kind of work we're going to do and the kind of service we're going to give it to you. One thing that we're going to do is to punish corruption. We need to reward the police, reward the prosecution authority, reward the investigating officers, reward the informers on the ground. The machine must be well resourced, well oiled. Then, once you have oiled this machine, no one can go and buy them. They know that if I successfully prosecute a politician, I stand a chance of getting a bonus because it's a high-profile case. If I successfully prosecute or arrest or investigate this case of cash in transit, I'm likely to get bonus because this is the most dangerous case. There must be a reward in fighting crime and corruption. So our infrastructure is going to be led by a corrupt-free government where corruption is punishable. We now are almost a year now in the municipalities where we are. We got removed in eThekwini without a single minute allegation of corruption. In a year, we've been there. Not a single person can say, point the EFF people and say, this one is corrupt, he did this one did. We have never had that from the leadership of the EFF. And that leadership is at the lowest level. They know that this is how we work. That's what we're saying. We don't have money as the party. We get very minimal from the IEC, from Parliament and all of that. We maximize with that small resource. This building we have here, we own it. It's our building. We're not renting it. And with such small amounts of money, if there was corrupt leadership, just to take a portion of that money, will not have achieved all these things that we've achieved as the EFF. So that's what will be characterizing the infrastructure. You are sitting in the infrastructure now, developed by us without being in government. If we can do this in less than 10 years as a small party with no resources, imagine if charged with state resources. But I'm more interested in the BOTs with the Chinese. And I've had discussions with them, and I've made my points very clear to them that these are going to be done through our own dictates. And a lot of Chinese leaders have taken me into confidence that, you know, the reason why we end up owning the harbors and the railway lanes is because your African leaders come and use that as collateral, that if you can't pay, you can take this. Yeah. So it's not China coming to say we want a harbor. It's us giving to China voluntarily. So we're not giving China anything. We send to China, we've got this problem of water infrastructure. So
we voluntarily give away our assets, because I was going.
We do that.
I was going there in terms of attaching those assets.
We give them. We give. They don't want that. We must give them BOTs. We say build this water infrastructure, operate it. After 30 years, transfer it. Had we done that in 1994, the Chinese or whoever had invested in our infrastructure will be going out now and handing it over back to us. The roads, we can go and ask anyone, including Robert Gumede, and say to him, Robert, here is a road, my brother. Come and develop it to be the best in the Eastern Cape. The best problematic road. Do it, Robert. Put a toll gate. But after 30 years, you're handing it over back to us. They can't do that because as long as there is no immediate benefit for them now, no one is going to give you money now and give you a bribe now when you're telling them this thing is going to be handed over to you in 30 years. No, they say, no, I'm putting my money now and then I'm going to make my money back and make my profit back, then I'll give it back to you. They want a situation where they are taking it out, money from the state, give it to you, build a road and then come back, take the money from you, and the road is not there. So, why do we have a problem of electricity? When nuclear is there, the Russians are there, and people say, no, they call us flip-floppers. You said you don't want nuclear under Zuma, now you say you want nuclear. We said nuclear deal of Zuma is characterized by corruption. And specifically that deal can't go through because this has got a lot of questions around it. We don't allow that. But it doesn't mean we don't need nuclear. We need nuclear that will be above board, that will give us reliable electricity in the next 5 to 10 years. We need to service our coal power stations. Make sure we use them optimally and we maintain them properly. You cannot close a power station that gives you 1,000 megawatts for an alternative of green, which can give you 2,000 megawatts. You close 200 megawatts. You close 1,000 for a green that can give you 200 megawatts. And they even say the electricity produced by this green energy is not compatible for our grid. Then we have a big problem. So we are going to use coal. The Chinese have got one of the biggest coal power station. Medupi is stuck. Every day one unit works. It's a call for celebration. Everybody must put everything down and celebrate. Medupi unit 1 is working. Kusile, same story. It has been for far too long. It has proven to be difficult for us. Let's go and ask for help from those who have done it before.
You know, the ANC has been talking, I remember just speaking to the Minister of Energy and Minerals, Gwede Mantashe, just the other day.
Yes.
And he was talking about sabotage. What is your...
There's no sabotage. There's lack of maintenance. You know, if you sit down with Marcelo Gogo, he explains to you that I generate sufficient megawatts to know that when I shut down this one for maintenance, this is going to be off for these days and this will carry me. By the time I exhaust this one, I will be able to open this one and never compromising on the maintenance. So the problem is maintenance, and the maintenance money goes out but doesn't maintain. It's not sabotage, it's corruption. Corruption is at the center of this. Then they bring a minister of electricity. A guy works exclusively for electricity, which me and you don't have. So what is he working on? He's getting paid another added responsibility on the cabinet. He's getting paid for laughing. He's a very good laugher and dancer. He's paid. He gets paid for that. There's nothing. And then when he's bored, he calls a press conference when Saturday, Sunday to say a lot of nothing. They speak today that we will not be on any level beyond level 1. We've managed the situation, we're fine. In the morning, 8 o'clock, level 6. This is an indication of a group of people who don't know what they're doing. They don't know what's going on. They have no idea, none whatsoever. And therefore, we cannot have the leadership of the EFF operating the same way as these old people are operating. Why is Minister of Electricity not having offices in the power stations? When we are told this power station is the one that is problematic, why is there no satellite office there of the minister where we know every Wednesday he goes there to check progress? Today we're here, this is how far we are. Nothing. All they are relying on is a paper given to them. They don't know what is really happening on the ground because they are not job driven. And we need the leadership that is job driven. These bridges here that you used to come to this office are old and are going to collapse. And these bridges you see and the tar roads you see were designed by engineers. And they said the lifespan, you don't have to do anything. You just have to look at the plans and the approvals of those who came before you to say, okay, here are the bridges of Johannesburg. Which one is the lifespan coming to an end? Everything is written there. That this is 50 years, this is 30 years, this is 100 years. They are waiting for it to shake before they make an intervention. And when bridges are falling, you're like, yo, there is a season of bridges falling. There will be a season of bridges falling because they were all built at the same time, almost. So why would they not fall at the same time? Someone is not paying attention. People go into government. They don't ask, bring the plans of this country. What is what? The people of Soweto, where do they get water from? And what is happening there where the water comes from? They have no idea, none whatsoever. They just walk in because for them, it's not power, it's glory. They confuse power and glory. There's a difference between power and glory. They swim in glory, but they have no power. Because if they had power, they would have changed this situation we're subjected to for the better.
Corruption is another hot topic from the manifesto that is key across the globe. We know there's corruption everywhere, whether it's in government, in business, not just in South Africa, but currently in South Africa, corruption is vital and crime is at all-time high. Despite South Africa having anti-corruption policy and framework, it's not being implemented, and EFF recognizes that this is the issue. Right now, people that are being found guilty in corruption are not being held accountable. They're not being charged with a fine or jail time. In fact, they're being patted on the head and set on their way. But the reality is corruption is a big thing, whether it's bribery, money laundering, or even having other people threaten people. Crime is really rampant right now. And another issue the EFF has recognized is the fact that people are afraid to report corruption and crime. The whistleblowers are afraid for their lives. And that's because many people are discouraged from sharing this. But the EFF sees a great opportunity by giving incentives to people to follow through and find the people guilty and hold them accountable, as well as encouraging people to be that whistleblower to help corruption come to an end. Now, I know what you're thinking. The EFF and corruption? Really, Melanie? What about VBS? But we have to go back and say there's no proof of that. And if you want to go back to one of my past videos and take a listen to help understand that, that's the most important thing. The EFF shared that they're an anti corrupt organization and party. They will not tolerate any of their members having any aspect of corruption. And if they are found guilty, they'll be let go just like that. They also talk about how things are possible without corruption. They use themselves as an example. Despite having very little money, they were able to save up over the last 10 years and purchase their own building. It shows that things can be successful without corruption. But when it comes down to it, we have to look at the big picture about corruption. Corruption impacts people on the ground, South Africans, because the rich get richer, lining their pockets, and the poor get poorer. And this has to come to a stop. And the EFF sees this as a priority. Let's take a listen to what Julius Malema had to say about corruption.
Mr. Malema, just two more questions
Yeah,
now.
sure.
Two more questions now. In 2019, in your manifesto, you had projected that you'd grow the economy by, I think it was 66%, I believe.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything, forgive me, but I don't think I saw anything in this manifesto in terms of your projections should you come into power post 29th of May. Do you think that the EFF can inspire growth economically in this condition?
All you need is what we're talking about to grow the economy. You have to develop the infrastructure. You have to make the power supply reliable. You have to make water supply reliable. You have to make the safety of the country guaranteed to all those who live in it and those who wish to visit it. Once you do that and you beneficiate and you industrialize and you localize the economy, you are able to attract tractions of investors and you grow the economy, because we don't want the economy that grows like it happened under President Mbeki, but it doesn't trickle down and change the living conditions of our people. You can see the economy is growing, the rich are becoming more richer and the poor are becoming more poorer. We don't want that kind of economy. As it grows, it must be multiplying and creating more economic opportunities for our people.
Now, the last question is around credit ratings. You said that you want your own credit rating. BRICS was actually speaking about its own credit rating. Do you foresee that we'd get to investment grade under the EFF leadership? And how?
Well, if you want to be globally competitive, you're going to have to subject yourself to these rating agencies. And BRICS had spoken about that. We feel very strong that the continent must have that itself. And there will be other rating agencies from progressive countries which will come and look at our policy and look at our infrastructural development, corruption and all of that, money laundering, and be in a position to say, we think this economy, although socialist orientated, but it's a relatively stable economy where there is law and order, corruption is punishable, and there is no money laundering, and investment is guaranteed and put under protection. Because that's all they need. All they look for under the EFF government, they will get it. Don't get us wrong. There's no way we want to work with America or Europe or UK or anything of that sort. But our preferred choice will be the East, will be Russia, and all those sort of things. But if a good proposal is put forward and is to benefit both countries, why not? We are in a country that doesn't exist in isolation. That's why we say we want the continent to be one. Because we believe with the unity of the continent, we are able to now earn our seat at the negotiating table. We can be able to say to UN Security Council, you were formed in this fashion before we decolonized ourselves and before we did away with oppression. Now we are independent, and this development must be taken into consideration post the World War II. It can't be that since the formation of this Security Council, there hasn't been a development in Africa. For Africa to earn a permanent seat in the UN and to democratize the UN Security Council, where no single country can veto the decision of the majority. It must be based on the principle of the majority rule, where once the majority have resolved that there must be ceasefire in Palestine, no America can come in and veto that. So it is this kind of global politics and progressive internationalism that allows us to subject ourselves to international, multinational bodies which govern and guide the whole world.
So I take it under the EFF, we will still see continuation of our agreements or treaty with America in terms of AGOA?
No. We'll renegotiate all of that because we are not going to be a dumping site of America. Look at what AGOA has done to our chicken industry as an example. Because Americans don't eat chicken feet and what wings or something, whatever they don't eat from the chicken, they bring it, instead of throwing it away, they now package it and send it to us. And then those who produce chicken here can no longer sell those things to us because we can get them at an affordable rate because they are rejects. So we have to protect our infant industry against such powerful agreements. We cannot protect an agreement that says South Africa cannot, an agreement between South Africa and Germany, that South Africa cannot manufacture a car, that South Africa will only assemble cars from Germany. There is no question whether we can manufacture a car because we manufactured a fighting jet. That fighting jet was produced by us, and to an extent that the Chinese wanted to copy it. And the world is the world's best fighting jet. If we can do that, it's so obvious that we can produce and manufacture our own car. But our agreements makes it impossible. Okay, South Africa, you want to create jobs with your car manufacturing this and that, that's fine. We'll produce it here, send it to you, you will assemble it, and through assembling, you will make money. And you'll make jobs, you'll create jobs. We finance ourselves the assembling of cars instead of financing the manufacturing of cars because of those agreements. So we're not going to perpetuate unreasonable trading agreements which are not to the best interest of our country.
We also know that EFF has been very involved with the youth. They see the youth as the future. They have the youth have been involved in the manifesto creation, and they also understand the youth are the future. They see the unemployment rate for youth and how much needs to go into the youth. And when I heard the youth leader of the EFF talking about this, they also talked about youth empowerment certificates and the youth guaranteed loans, things I didn't know about. And the EFF is very creative in creating these because they see the opportunities. They know that they need to provide for the youth as the youth are the future of the country. But also it puts an ease of mind for those that are not youth, that think the youth are going to come and take over the country. Now, currently, right now in Parliament and in many businesses, there are people of retirement age and they need to be training and mentoring the youth to come in and take over and be leaders for tomorrow. It needs to be the youth that are helping make decisions for the future because it's going to be their world to run, their country, as people retire and the age ends up finishing off. And this is the evolution of life. And the EFF sees the potential in this. Let's take a listen to what the EFF youth leader had to say on this topic.
What was your, as EFF Student Command, material contribution into the production of this manifesto of the EFF?
Look, we form part of the. So our approach in the EFF is that all the leadership of the EFF contributes to the final product of the manifesto in one way or the other. But we also get black professionals. So we would even have, for example, student professionals, someone maybe who has a master's or a PhD, who may not be leading in the EFF Students Command in any structure, but because they've got expertise on a particular subject, they'd be invited to come and contribute at a level of research and all of that. So we participated like that. We participated in terms of ourselves, those who are in structures, but we also got to hear the views of ordinary youth, young people in institutions of higher learning, and also youth who are not in institutions of higher learning, but have certain skills that they can advise us in. So that's how we contributed to the final product of the EFF manifesto.
Are you happy with what it says specifically about youth-related issues?
Yeah, I'm very happy. Look, the two, I think, key things that stand out for me is the YEE certificate. I think the manifesto calls it the Youth Economic Empowerment Certificate.
Yes.
So South Africa would know the BEE certificate because that's been the big debate over the years that, look, companies must have certain points which then give them BEE certificate and it incentivizes them to be able to do business in certain spaces in government and all of that. So we then made the analysis to say, above and beyond just having a BEE certificate, let's have a Youth Economic Empowerment Certificate. Why do we have that? Companies which are seen to be investing in the development of youth and also the employment of youth must be given some form of grading to say, no, this company is contributing to youth employment. This company is contributing to assisting black young entrepreneurs in one way or the other. We can't view them as the same as we'd view a company that is just only interested in profit, but is not investing in the developmental needs of South Africa. So we'd grade those companies, this company has now a YEE points system. And then, they get things much more easier. They can do business with government, they get incentives, and so forth and so on. So I think that's a very important point that the manifesto makes. The second point that it makes on youth development is the youth loan guarantee schemes. So you would remember during the COVID-19, there was what was called loan guarantee schemes. And really the very simplistic explanation behind that is that if you are a person, a business person, entrepreneur, and you want to go and get financing from a finance institution, a bank, or any financial service provider, but because you are black and because you've been historically segregated and economically excluded, you don't have the financial history to back up why a bank must trust you with 10 million rands. But then your ideas are perfect, your ideas are developmental, your ideas are innovative, but because you grew up in Kuguletu or you grew up in Guyana, the white financial system doubts whether or not this idea can go through. So the EFF then says the solution to this is government must insulate these young people. To say, as a young person, you're able to approach a financial service institution or a bank and say, give me a loan, I've got this idea, I want to start this business, whatever, give me this loan. And because we have this youth loan guarantee scheme, if, God forbid, this idea of this young person does not get the results that it had intended to get, government is able to come in and pay for that loan. So that eases the markets. Now it's much easier. It makes young black people and youth more attractive to the markets so that they're able to get the loans and we build young entrepreneurs. So I think those 2 points for me, of course, there's a lot more. We talk about procurement and all of that. But I think those two, for me, they stand out when we talk youth development. Yeah.
And maybe to juxtapose that, there's the whole issue of a debate about the child support grant, because it's mainly young people who have these kids that benefit from the child support grant. Do you think the child support grant should continue, especially in a world wherein what you just said is the reality? Would there be a need for child support grant to continue?
Look, child support grant must continue now because the ANC government has failed young people in South Africa. There are no job opportunities. Our education system is unable to respond to the skills needs of South Africa. In other words, even if someone were to go through the education system from grade R to grade 12 or even get a degree, they may not find work, not because they are unqualified, but what they are educated for doesn't respond to the economic needs and the skills needs of the country. So we can't get rid of child's grant. But under a developmental state of the EFF, that then resolves this question of education, resolves this question of youth unemployment, then over time there won't be a need, at least to have a child grant system that is so burdensome to the state purse as it is now. Because when you give young people jobs, then automatically they don't qualify for grant. When you give them the correct education and they're able to go and participate in the economy, automatically they're not going to need grants. But for now, we must give them. And we must not villainize it too much. You know, the first time I ever spoke on an EFF platform, I spoke about what was called the Carnegie Commission. And the purpose of that commission, I mean, it was back in apartheid, was the white government wanted to find a way to resolve the question of poor whites. So literally, white government leaders, business leaders, leaders of industry, sat down, called psychologists, called all these people and said, comrades, we have a problem of poor white people in South Africa. We can't have poor whites. That thing of poverty is resolved, is for black people only. Because they will start to see us as what they're saying. So they sat down, and at the center of the recommendations of that commission was to have a welfare state that is biased towards white people. So white people were given houses. White people, even the most unqualified, were given jobs. Jobs were created for them. If you look at the railway system, if you look at many of the state-owned enterprises. In fact, one of the key fights that white capital has with the welfare state of apartheid is how unsustainable the economy of the apartheid government then became. Because they were just creating jobs and putting people, because they didn't want to have a situation where a white child is unemployed or a white child is sleeping in the streets. So we must not feel ashamed when we provide welfare for our people. But of course, that is not what we want as an ultimate goal. Ultimately, we want to give them opportunity so that they are able to stand on their own. And that is what the manifesto of the EFF is committing to.
After listening to all of these and exploring and investigating and understanding what the EFF is trying to do, I understand how to answer these questions of how are they going to pay for it and who's going to do the jobs. So let's address how they're going to pay for it. Well, let's start with this. When more job creation is created through industrialization, nationalization, ending corruption and crime, as well as infrastructure, people will be employed. They won't be counting on social grants. The monies that are coming in from that industrialization, the resources and minerals that they're going to be producing here and other infrastructure activities will then be able to be put back into the government. Similarly, the EFF has talked about taking away the roles of deputy ministers and provincials. And this will cut back on salaries, housing, cars, fuel, and all the other expenses that go in that will go back into society. That way that people for child grants and the senior grants can be increased. So ultimately, it's not going to cost any additional money. The money is already there. It just has to be managed correctly. That being said, we have to look at who's going to do the work. Now, the EFF has great confidence in the South African people. There are a lot of skilled professionals that are able to do the jobs if they're put in the right jobs, whether it's in parliament, in business, as well as in the private and public sectors. Ensuring that these individuals are trained and skilled will help successfully do what needs to do, including electricity and other infrastructures. Making sure that the right people have the jobs is essential. But if they don't have the skilled people in South Africa, they also understand the importance of bringing experts from outside of the country to come and train South Africans, not to do the job, but to train them so that they will be ready for the future. It is all tied together for them to show that they are really truly a party about the people, wanting what's best for South Africans and making sure that they are explaining themselves so people understand what the manifesto is about and what's possible when you think outside of the box. I encourage you to ask questions, to listen to interviews from the different political parties. And if you don't understand something, if you're in South Africa, before you vote, definitely do your research. Find out what it is that you're looking for as a South African before you cast that vote. I'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas on what we've discussed today. Drop your comments below. Let's have a conversation. And please don't forget to hit that like and notification button. Until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.